Welcome to this explainer. When you think of the Maldives, you're probably picturing pristine beaches, crystal clear water, and those beautiful overwater bungalows, right? Well, behind the scenes, there is a massive, highly ambitious technological transformation in the works. Today, we're unpacking the official National Data Center Capacity and Digital Infrastructure Development Plan, and honestly, this roadmap reads less like a standard IT upgrade and a lot more like a literal survival guide for the digital age.
To secure its future against some very real geographic and climate threats, the Maldives is proposing a completely comprehensive national data center plan. And it forces us to ask a really fascinating question. How exactly do you build a digital fortress in the middle of the ocean? You know, digital infrastructure just isn't a luxury anymore. It's absolutely foundational for any nation's public services, financial stability, and long-term security. But for an island nation facing rising sea levels and extreme geographic isolation, standard off-the-shelf solutions just aren't going to cut it.
So, let's dive right into this roadmap. First, we'll cover the Digital Island Challenge. Then we'll look at the multi-tier architecture, explore sustainable power and cooling, dig into securing sovereign island data, and finally, we'll break down the timeline and investment.
Okay, Section 1, the Digital Island Challenge, designing for existential resilience. We're starting with the absolute core hurdle here, which is designing digital infrastructure that guarantees resilience and sovereignty for an entire island population. Now, what's truly wild here is the scale. 1 million. This entire infrastructure plan is designed to support a target population capacity of 1 million people. It's all about future-proofing the nation's economy. The government wants to fully support digital transformation, national security, AI-enabled public services, and of course, climate resilience. And to do all of that, you need some serious computing power that can scale up right alongside the nation.
Moving to Section 2, a multi-tier architecture, or the spatial blueprint. Because obviously, you can't just shove all your servers into one single building when your country is literally an archipelago. The strategy here relies on some brilliant geographic separation. You've got a massive, centralized core up in Hulamule, contrasted directly with a resilient backup fortress way down south in Adu City. The primary national data center is the heavy lifter. We're talking a planned 10 to 40 megawatt capacity at a highly secure Tier 3+ or Tier 4 level. Since Hulamule offers elevated land and access to a skilled workforce, it's going to host the core government systems, banking, and those powerful AI clusters. But if disaster strikes, you absolutely need a backup. That's where the secondary disaster recovery center in Adu City comes in, ensuring complete continuity of operations.
Zooming out even further, we've got these micro data centers scattered across the remote atolls. Ranging from 50 to 200 kilowatts each, these smaller hubs will be deployed across 8 to 12 remote areas. This edge computing network is a total game changer. It means public safety analytics, e-government services, and critical health data for telemedicine don't have to make that long digital trek all the way back to the primary center every single time. It brings the power of the fortress directly to the local islands.
All right, Section 3, Sustainable Power and Cooling, featuring island innovations. Let's face it, running high-tier tech in a tropical paradise requires massive energy, and data centers run hot.
I am absolutely obsessed with this concept, seawater cooling. The Maldives is actually taking its biggest geographic challenge, the ocean itself, and using it as a massive natural advantage to cool down its server farms. Instead of burning through huge amounts of electricity to run traditional air conditioning, they plan to pull naturally cold temperatures right from the deep ocean to manage the heat. It is incredibly innovative. To pull this off, it's a completely hybrid approach. They've got to balance the 10 to 20 megawatt demands of the primary center with solar-diesel hybrid microgrids, plus liquid cooling specifically for those intense AI workloads. They're also setting up battery energy storage systems to keep the lights on sustainably. They're even planning for waste heat reuse. That means capturing the heat generated by the servers and repurposing it for other local cooling needs. It's a really efficient, closed-loop way of thinking about island energy. Which brings us to Section 4, securing sovereign island data to build the digital fortress. Once the tech is built and powered, we've got to protect the data. And we're not just talking about physical walls here. We're talking about virtual borders. The absolute beating heart of this security framework is the sovereign cloud. The Maldives wants to ensure that no external entities can control or access its most sensitive national data.
In a world where your data is usually sitting on servers thousands of miles away, governed by completely foreign laws, a sovereign cloud ensures the Maldives maintains total control over its own digital destiny.
You can visualize this as a zero-trust architecture filtering outward in layers. Layer 1 is the most strictly protected, your personal citizen data. That literally never leaves the islands. Layer 2 handles the critical government systems running directly on that sovereign cloud we just talked about. Then, as data becomes less sensitive, it moves to Layer 3 for commercial hybrid hosting, and finally, Layer 4 for international workloads. It's a highly organized, highly defensive posture.
And to keep this whole fortress connected to the outside world, even if a major disaster strikes, they're layering in some serious redundant communications. We're talking a minimum of 3 independent submarine cable landings, with routes to Sri Lanka, India, and Singapore. Internally, they're building a ring topology fiber network, pumping data across the atolls at 100 to 400 gigabits per second. And if a cable gets cut or a storm knocks out a terrestrial link, Starlink and OneWeb satellites kick in for immediate emergency failover.
Finally, Section 5, the timeline and investment, mapping the path to 2040. So how do you scale a massive infrastructure project like this up, and what is the final price tag going to look like? Because this for sure isn't happening overnight.
The ambition on this timeline is just incredible, scaling from the baseline foundations in 2026 all the way up to becoming a 150-megawatt regional digital hub by 2040. Phase 1 is all about laying that foundation, building the primary data center and the fiber backbone. By Phase 2, they expand to the Disaster Recovery Center and officially launch the Sovereign Cloud. Phase 3 is where things get really futuristic, deploying national AI clusters. And finally, by Phase 4, the Maldives is aiming to attract major international hyperscalers, transforming from an isolated network into a true regional powerhouse.
When you factor in the global average cost per megawatt, plus a 20 to 30% logistics premium just for building on an island because you have to ship literally everything in, you're looking at an estimated $250 million investment. The primary national data center alone is going to cost somewhere between $120 and $300 million. But when you look at that total estimated cost of $240 to $550 million over a 10-year program, it becomes really clear. This isn't just an IT budget. This is an investment in national survival and economic diversification.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The Maldives is building this out of sheer geographic necessity, but as climate and geographic threats continue to grow globally, will this ocean-bound digital fortress become the essential blueprint for every vulnerable nation out there? By combining cutting-edge tech like seawater cooling and zero-trust sovereign clouds with their natural environment, they aren't just protecting their data, they're securing their entire future. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring these incredible concepts.